All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Defying All Odds Podcast with your host, Jesse, and my co-host,
Rafa, as always.
And today we're coming to you live once again here at Columbia University's campus. We have a special guest. She is a rising senior majoring in neuroscience. Please welcome Sarafina Belafonte.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. I love the fit. The hair is matching your top and everything. Like it's all put together nice.
Bright colors always.
Yes.
All the time.
Especially with this weather that we're having today. It's 90 degrees today. It's real hot.
Yeah.
Real hot today.
Yeah.
So,
which is good because it was so cold last week.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have that heat now.
Facts.
I remember wearing like a coat last week, so it's great to
finally
experience some summer weather here in New York City.
Please, no more rain. I'm gonna just throw it out there. Please, I'm tired of the rain. I don't want no more rain. Okay? But enough of the rain. A little bit about you. Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you tell viewers a little bit about yourself for those that may not know you or your background?
Yeah. My name is Sarafina Belafonte. I am a student at Columbia studying neuroscience. And I'm also a singer, dancer, and actor, and do a lot of musical theater and make my own music. I just released my first single back in December called Wandering Eye, and I have more music to come. And I'm also very passionate about academia. I work at a lab at Zuckerman Institute, Richard Axel's lab, and I work with cuttlefish, studying their brains because they camouflage with their brains, so you can see the perception of their world on their skin.
They camouflage with their brain.
Yeah.
You don't have to elaborate.
So basically, they have these, motor neurons that extend from their brain to these ink sacs in their skin called chromatophores, which basically expand and contract in order to have a bunch of different patterns that they can camouflage to in their environment.
Interesting.
And we're trying to figure out how that works.
Like the mechanism behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do most animals that camouflage, do they not operate the same way?
Yeah, so chameleons don't camouflage actually with their brains. It's a different mechanism that is, I think, more to do with the skin. But fact check me on that. But cuttlefish, they're the same. They're part of the cephalopod family, so same as octopus and squid.
I see.
And they camouflage.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So, you threw a lot at us, right?
Sorry.
No, that was great. That was great. One thing I really wanted to touch on, like you said, you're an actor, you're a singer, you're doing everything in this with neuroscience and everything like that. Some might say you're like a jack of all trades, right? But then others will say, but a master of none, right? So I'm gonna ask you, right? Like with all these different things that you have at your disposal, what do you feel that you're most closely connected to?
Oh, that is a good question, and that is a question all my mentors want to know.
I know we're here to get the juice.
I've always been someone who has done a bunch of different things, and so I definitely am someone who burns the candle at both ends. I spread myself very thin, and I've always been that way, and I think I always will be, kind of, to bring it back to cephalopods, like an octopus.
Right.
All my arms in different places.
Right.
But I absolutely have such a passion for neuroscience, and that kind of stemmed from my grandmother who had temporary hallucinations for 5 months. That's a long story.
Whoa.
And I kind of wanted to get to the bottom of it, and I felt like Sherlock Holmes doing so much research trying to figure out what that was, and that just fostered such a love for neuroscience and research. Right. But I also, what really fuels me as well is the arts, so performing in theater, and and I love them all dearly, and my hope in life is that I'll be able to do both.
And interconnect both of them, basically.
Yeah, somehow, and whether that means just at different times or at the same time, which is my super optimistic, I'm not yet jaded by academia standpoint. But yeah, so I don't know how to answer the question yet.
Okay. You still have a long time to figure all that out. So, but I just find it very fascinating for people who are able to consider themselves professionals in so many different aspects. That acting and music, some might say it's like in the similar realm, right? But like I said, like neuroscience, it's a whole other field.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to have incredible knowledge on both ends, I think is really cool. So, and how about you tell us a little bit more about like how you started with the acting and the singing?
Yeah. So I come from a very artistic family. On my mom's side, my grandparents were professors of music in Denmark, and my grandfather was an organist and a composer and a conductor, and my grandmother played the recorder and the flute. And then my mom was a singer, and she released her first record at the age of 11. And
Damn.
and then she was an international model for years, and now produces shows, specifically Milena Belafonte's Boudoir, which mixes fashion with dinner theater and cabaret and burlesque. So just artistic everywhere. I get my, spreading myself thin definitely from her, because she's also in 700 different bands.
Okay.
And then on my dad's side, my grandfather was singer, actor, activist Harry Belafonte, and my grandmother was a dancer with Catherine Dunham, and then my dad was a sound engineer, and still does production and things like that. So it was kind of just in my blood, but my family definitely wanted to make sure I found my love for it by myself and did not force it on me at all. So when I was younger, I started at the National Dance Institute and got a full scholarship and was mentored by New York City Ballet principal dancer Jacques D'Amboise. And that was just where I really fostered my love for performing. And while it was mostly through dance, not ballet, I don't like ballet. I love watching it, I just don't like it.
Why is that? What is it? What is it that sets you off from?
It's so rigid, and it's so beautiful to see these dancers who have mastered it. But it's also a field, I think, where you can't dip your toe in and out. You are very committed. It's a certain type of dance that you can't really break the rules of. And I like being able to break the rules, even though I'm a rule follower. I don't know, cognitive dissonance there. But I love the art form and know a lot of the ballet dancers here in the city and respect it, but just does not do well on my body. So was at the fostered my love of performing at National Dance Institute and caught the bug, and then I started doing musical theater and also making my own music, and it just snowballed from there.
Now something that I find very interesting, obviously, like she mentioned, she is the granddaughter of the late Harry Belafonte. And you were obviously interested in academia early on in life. I mean, for those watching, she actually got a 1600 on first try in her SAT. And so,
if you don't know, that's a perfect score.
Yes.
Some people may not know that.
Yes. So a perfect score on the SAT, which is like the admissions test everyone takes to get into college. So, my question for you is, how were you able to kind of balance all of this early on? Like, you were participating in this dancing, kind of like surrounded by an artistic family, but then you also find your passion for neuroscience and you apply to Columbia. What's that process been like for you?
Yeah.
And how did you put it all together now that you're here?
I really have to say thank you to my mom. I do come from an artistic family, but she was very much like academics, and she wanted to make sure that she could give me the best education possible. And, she is incredibly supportive in everything I want to do. And she made it very clear that, or just really fostered an environment where I could be so curious and really dive into a lot of anything in academics. And my school that I went through kindergarten through 8th grade, she actually founded, called the Spire Legacy School.
Wow.
Spire, not spy. Sometimes I say that because
Spire.
And people get confused.
Spire, okay.
It would be cool if it was a spy school.
Like Spy Kids?
Yeah, exactly.
I think every kid that saw that movie wanted to be a spy.
Me included. And so she founded that to kind of have a place that fostered gifted education, but also with empathy. And so she has just been kind of my role model in life, and someone who's focused a lot on academia, but also the arts. And that was incredibly important to her as well. So she's really sacrificed so much and done so much to make sure that I do have the opportunities I have. And so, because I have that love and support too, and I'm in New York City, where
land of opportunity,
it's endless, I really was able to just dig into so much.
As a fact, again, like you said, New York City, this is where everybody wants to be when it comes to like Broadway musicals and stuff like that. So, that's incredible. So, and what can you say? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just really cool. So it's really dope.
I also find it interesting that, for the most part, the three of us all grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
But I can easily say that three of us had very different childhoods. Like, it's almost like, kind of like each, also, like you mentioned, like being the family background, right? My family came from healthcare. So I always knew, like, I'm sure enough I'm influenced in this is what I'm seeing. But like similar to you, like it's like you want to develop that niche. Like you also want to develop, like, are you interested in, like, is this your passion? And I think, Raphael, like, when we worked at Gap, I think we spoke a lot about this back in the day. But the idea of being able to explore so many different niches is great because you're in the city.
Exactly.
The landmark of opportunity, as one might say.
Was there ever anything, because again, like you mentioned, like you've been basically born into, acting and singing and everything like that. And academia for you has always been just intertwined with your life. Was there ever any other hobbies that you ever tried out that you felt like that was what you would maybe potentially branch out to, or you tried, didn't work, like outside of what you again already do now?
Let me think. I definitely have recently found a love for being on the production end.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of also what my mom does, including performing. But she creates these shows from her own mind and vision and heart, and she really is the one behind the scenes, like the mastermind. And I found also a real love of that as well, to be able to have a vision of something and make it come to life.
There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, it's a fact. As you see, I'm in front of the camera, but my love is all about photography, videography, and being behind the camera, being able to tell stories. So again, like, as an actor, as yourself, right, what you always want to do is try to portray these emotions to your audience, right, and give off a story. So I see with production, it's just the same thing, just in a different level.
Now, you did mention you also already released your own single, kind of similar, following in the footsteps of your mom. What was that process like for you going into, so you're surrounded by a lot of the singing and the acting, and that kind of goes on with your family. And then you've been passionate with neuroscience, but now you're going into this field, now I'm going to go become a singer. So what's that process been like?
Oh, it's been really wonderful, but also kind of the scariest thing I've ever done.
Really? Why so?
I think it's one thing when you are... I think my academic path is very much laid out for me.
Right.
Like, it's
structured,
exactly, and I know that going to grad school would just be, a set path for me and what that would look like. But to actually put something out there that you make yourself is, very scary.
Yeah.
And as creating this podcast and having to have that all fall on you, and that's your vision, and that's something, there's so much pride in it, but also fear, because...
Absolutely. I think, and Raphael, you can definitely attest to this as well, I think that one of the main things is when you kind of create something that's your own brand, and you have 100% control of it, it's like you're able to kind of develop it in such a way that you like, but at the same time, there's a lot of trial and error that goes involved. And I would say, it's not to say that we started this and there weren't any difficulties. I think with anything that you start with your own personal brand, there's always difficulties, but it's about trial and error and seeing what works and what doesn't and going from there. So I think it's beautiful that you've kind of experienced kind of another passion and tacked on yet another hobby of yours. Well, some might say another niche, right? And now that you're going to be a senior now here at Columbia, so what do you have in mind for this final year? By the way, so sorry, but for those watching, she was in Columbia's varsity show, right? Yes. So you just came off of that performance, right? In May. So what is your vision now going into your senior year with all this experience?
This, going into my senior year, obviously you're aware that, this is the last time you are in the safety net of the university.
Right.
And it means that I want to enjoy every moment, but I also need to strategically figure out how can I set myself best for when I graduate. And I'm just fully committed to committing to everything.
As you should.
As you should. I want to be at the lab and doing a lot of research, but I also know that music is really what makes my heart beat, and I am very committed to recording and writing and releasing and I want that to have an even bigger presence this year. Loved doing the varsity shows. I did it twice, and for anybody who doesn't know, it's jokingly called the longest running show on Broadway because the theater is technically on Broadway.
That's right.
There you go.
But yeah, it was the 131st annual year this year, and I did it last year as well, the 130th. And it's a satirical musical about life at Columbia, and it's totally original every year, written by students. Everybody who works on it is a student, and they cast you as an actor, and then they write the show.
Okay.
And then the script doesn't actually freeze until a couple days before it's on the stage.
Wow.
On the stage?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you're telling me you're practicing like what? Like once or twice?
So we rehearse for 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then once for 4 hours.
Okay.
And so that's 5 days a week devoted. And it's 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. for most of it.
Which
is prime homework hours I have discussed.
Yes,
That's like when I'm
that's
most productive, and now I'm in the rehearsal room. And yeah, but it's a wacky experience, especially because the writing's always changing. You never know what's going to stick, what's not going to stick.
I see.
But I think in many ways that malleability and that flexibility is such an important life skill, to just be able to go with the flow, take what you've been given, leave your ego at the door, try wacky things in the rehearsal room. And I just want to bring, that energy, I think, into this year too.
Yeah.
And just do it all.
Go for it.
See what sticks.
Go with the flow, like you said.
Exactly.
So I think that speaks volumes in regards to like how everybody is nowadays, right? You can apply that to anything that you're trying to do, whether it's a new job or if you try to get yourself into something creative, whether it's social media or anything. Like, you need to go with the flow. You just need to throw things at the wall, see what sticks, and if it doesn't stick, you throw something else and figure it out, right? And just learn to adapt and enjoy trying these new things and figuring out what works and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what is your thought process when you go into these rehearsals, when you're helping the script writers plan out what is going to be like the final draft? So like, what goes through your mind leading up to the inevitable show?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's almost like you're moving so fast, you don't have time to think. Okay. Which is exactly what you need, because once you start thinking, you start getting insecure, and you start thinking, maybe I shouldn't. And I mean, especially the time I've done the show, I've also been in the lab, sometimes 20 hours a week, and then also a student, and so there was no time to feel, which is great. I'll deal with that during the summertime, right now. And my thought process was just go for it. It's a really nice space because it is not judgmental, and you are surrounded by such talented students, and you're learning from each other, and you're working with one another in such a unique setting that you kind of only understand when you're in it all the time. And it's also like the writers are listening to how you're performing it to know if it's going to work or not, because they are just putting it on the page, and it's up to you to bring it to life so they can see if it works. So you have to, in my head, commit 100% so they know if it works or not.
Does that ever get frustrating with like you and the writers? Let's say like they put something on paper, right? And then they, like you said, like you try your best to bring it to life, and they're like, that's not it. Let's do it again. How does that back and forth go? Yeah,
they don't always provide feedback. They'll watch it, and then, another script will come or a scene will come.
Oh, just like that?
But, there's also the director, and then the composer and the lyricist, and so there's so many, and the choreographer, so there's so many moving parts. Okay. But if I'm doing something and it's not working, I don't take that personally. Mm-hmm. It's just, is it going to work on the stage? And it's maybe it is my fault, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but maybe it's just not going to work at all.
So it's that fear of like, if it's going to work or if it's not, and then like, how do you go about changing that? And that's what kind of like lingers on your mind even after the performance.
Let me think about that, because I don't know if it's unnecessarily. I just show up and I do it. Okay. And then hopefully it works. But it's also fun because my character this year, I played a Russian spy for the U.S. federal government. And she was, US federal government. Yeah, and she was like super spy, but she was also a little wacky. And I loved it. It's just you can't play it safe. You just gotta go for it. So I think it's just trusting yourself that what you're doing is bring something to the table. And
I think that's the best way to put it, honestly. With all like these performances that you've kind of been through, has there been a time where you kind of just felt like, this is just not working out, and then you felt like overly stressed to the point where you're like, I don't really know what to do, and then you're like, okay, let me just take a step back and like go over
like
this.
in other words, have you hit rock bottom?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I absolutely. There have been, this semester in particular, with everything going on, I was so just anxious and stressed out, and I felt pulled in so many different directions. And it took a lot of conversations with my mom. Like, what am I doing with my life? And I am so grateful to have her as a support system to work through that. But, it's definitely, while it's very rewarding to want to achieve so much and in so many different fields, like sometimes you do burn the candle on both ends and you just fall apart.
Oof.
And then you get back up.
Right, that's the important part.
And you learn so much about yourself when you have fallen apart.
Yeah, again, going back to everything we've said, like you're going to mess up, you're going to fail, there's certain things that you're going to throw in that wall, it's not going to work, right? But what's most important is that you learn from your mistakes. We grow when we mess up. We don't grow when we succeed, because if we succeed, we just think we're on the top and nobody can touch us, right? When you hit that bottom, then you start thinking about damn, what am I doing? What can I do to go back up?
Yeah.
So
see, I'm with you on that. Except in my brain, even when I succeed, I'm also very hard on myself.
Yes, because you should never feel content. I think that's the better word. I think that's the word for it. Because a lot, again, people sometimes often will go to that they feel like they are on the top of the world, and they feel like, again, they are untouchable. And they don't think about, and they just feel like they will always be here. And then that's when you're content. That's when you're comfortable. And then that's when you often will slip up a lot, because you're not thinking about okay, what's the next step? How can I get better from here? Is this really the top, the creme de la creme, as some might say? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. But that's really cool about just the learning about what it's like to be in that space, right? Roughly, how many students partaking in this show?
So the cast is pretty small. This year is 12. Sometimes it's 10. Sometimes one year was 18, but apparently that did not work too many people. And then I don't know exactly how many creative team members, but those are the people who are writing the show and producing it and choreographing. Yeah, and I think that's around 10, maybe a little more. And so that's the core team creating the show. And then you have a wonderful group who are the assistant choreographers or the assistant costume director, things like that. So by the end of it, there's this year, there's around 100 people working on it.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
that really is.
Yeah.
So, again, when you think of these super big filming companies, right, that make these big blockbuster movies, obviously they have thousands of people, but 100 people is still crazy,
especially for a university.
Yeah.
Apart from that, just again, those are 100 different brains, 100 different heads moving around, and then you all have to try to come at the same page to then perform and hopefully bring out what you guys are trying to create.
Yeah.
That's true.
And bringing it back to you as an artist, right? How does the acting kind of mesh into your life of singing? How has it complemented you and made it in some ways easier or harder?
Good question. So I started with dance at National Dance Institute, and a lot of that was, we sometimes had 30, 40 performances a year. And because we were doing choreography that was meant to be performed, I felt like I was already starting to learn how to act, but through that physical movement, without actually going to an acting class or just reading a script. And so a lot of my acting or comedy in the show does come through physical comedy. And then my singing has always been kind of my favorite thing to do. But I've also realized that all of my singing also has a lot of acting in it. It's just always conveying an emotion of some sort. And I think it's kind of impossible for me to almost separate the two.
Right.
Whether it's singing a musical theater song or singing a song I write, there's always something that's an emotion or a story being told. So cliche. And so I think they all kind of really work hand in hand for me.
Okay.
Because it's not like, I did chorus in high school, but it wasn't like choral singing where you're all, just here trying to get the notes and that's it. Yeah, I was always I've been called expressive. By many people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What would you say is like your favorite type of genre to sing?
I love singing musical theater, but I think because my voice sometimes, my chest voice, so you have your chest voice, which is more down here, and then you have your head voice that is higher notes. I have a very kind of low timbre and kind of this like, don't know how to describe it.
Nah, show us.
Like, and so I love singing R&B.
R&B.
I love, pop songs too, but not always super electronic pop and singing. So.
What kind of artists do you use to like as inspiration when it comes to like that field of genre?
Yeah. So vocally, I think Adele, Amy Winehouse, who all have really interesting sounds.
Yes.
Because that was one thing I remember my chorus teacher told me one time. She's like, you have a very unique voice, she said. Which I took as a compliment.
I would, right?
I mean, it's true. I hope. That's like the start of the show. Like, you'd hope that you
Right, exactly.
And so I just love, listening to musicians who have such unique voices and also that don't need auto-tune. Like, it's both a philosophy and I don't know how to do it on a production scale, but I don't use auto-tune.
Oh, so it's all natural. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
And so, which I think is important because through theater, a lot of singing is live, and I want to sing live as much as I can. So I love them. My favorite artist of all time is Prince.
Prince.
Okay, cool.
Incredible.
Is it like the purple and the pink? Like, does that have like a correlation?
Exactly. I think it's everything. Besides the fact that the music is just perfection, and I can't imagine us having another Prince ever.
Right, he's just one of those people that like, you cannot physically just duplicate.
Yeah.
Right, there'll be people that like, again will take inspiration from him, but they'll never be like him.
Yeah.
I think before Kendrick Lamar's halftime Super Bowl performance, I think he had like the #1 Super Bowl performance at the time. Like,
something like that. Yeah.
Would not surprise me.
Yeah. So that's
he's just amazing. He was so just authentic and unapologetically himself.
Very true. Yeah.
And that is something that I hope to
aspire to.
Yeah. Always be and do.
Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, we kind of spoken about music. We spoke about dancing. I think also, a lot of the parts that being at Columbia, we have the core curriculum. You have all these literature classes that you take. Has there been anything that has kind of interested you beyond the arts and beyond neuroscience, like field, where that's like, like your late grandfather, he was into was it activism?
Civil activism.
Civil activism, right? Has there been like moments like that where you're like, oh, maybe I want to transpire to add in maybe another niche onto this grand resume of yours?
Well, my grandfather always said to us, as in me and my little brother Amadeus, like, no matter what you do, make sure you keep the cause in mind.
Right.
And so social justice has always been a really important part of my life. And my parents, back in 2019, founded the Belafonte Family Foundation, which is a tri-generational approach to creating access to underserved communities. And so our programming is widespread, but it has that red thread of creating access. And I think it's a way to, no matter what, make sure you're doing your part in keeping that idea of the cause with you all the time. And so that's just been so important to our family. And so my brother and I were very involved in that foundation. And it's a way to kind of take that baton that my grandfather has passed.
And kind of continue the legacy. Right. What, just so me and the other viewers can understand, like, what is like the main theme of the cause necessarily? Like, what is it that you guys are trying to preach outright? Yeah.
So I think at the core, with the foundation, it's about creating access. So, for example, we have scholarships for students in Haiti, vertical farms that you can put into a freight truck, and anywhere in the world. So in food deserts in the South Bronx, and then we also...
No, I'm sorry, I'm like Sonic.
Why are you looking at me? Luis eats.
No.
But continue.
Getting communities, making sure that communities are able to get the legal advice that they need and probably don't have access to. And so it's widespread for sure, but it's just about doing what you can for communities. So we're not, dealing with policy and trying to change the laws on that macro scale, but it's just making sure that the day-to-day,
like the daily access to it is there.
Exactly.
Like the basic necessity.
Yeah, because the people who are changing the laws, that's wonderful.
Right.
Right.
That's all I just want to preface.
Right. No, that's amazing. I think it's just as important to, like you said, worry about the micro level involved, right? And worry about the little people, as no matter what part of the world it is, whether it's Haiti or the South Bronx, So it's always important to just be able and be willing to just give out and understand, like, you're being heard, you're being seen, and there's people out there that are willing to help you.
Yeah,
so
that's true. And I think it also goes back to, like you mentioned, having a purpose, but also it's like, why are you there, right? It's like, if I'm doing something just because I enjoy it, but it always goes back to what does it mean to you as a person, your values, the reason you're there. So what's the motivation, underlying motivation, one might say. So I think that, that's excellent. And do you, in your day-to-day, like, do you still do work with the foundation, like, on it consistently? Is it like on and off, or is it more like
when you're out of school?
Yeah, like when you're out of school and you go back.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty consistent. It's kind of fluid throughout the day.
Okay.
Especially because we are working with our parents.
Right.
And while I do have a dorm, I'm home like every day.
Really?
Yeah. And my family were very tight-knit. So, I mean, my parents are working on it every day. And in many ways, so me and my brother we're always home and talking about it and dealing with the programming and trying also to get funding. Because it is a not-for-profit that people have to donate to.
Right.
So please donate.
Link down below in the description. If you want to support the cause. Help the cause.
Exactly. Anything.
Support those people in the South Bronx. Like, it really goes yes. For the record, I live in the South Bronx. I'm just saying, like, I'm those people. Support me, bro. I'm just saying, like, support us. Sometimes I go hungry, bro. So you never know. But that's amazing. And okay, like you said, again, you're gonna be a senior. What would you just say in general? Like, what are your aspirations for yourself outside of the college, and whether it's in the acting, the singing? Like, where do you see yourself like reaching? Where would you like to reach? What's the next goal for yourself?
Yeah. Grad school for neuroscience, PhD, doing research, but also rock star by night.
Okay, right, there you go.
Yeah.
Gotta keep that hobby alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would love to be doing musical theater. It would be a dream to be on Broadway. It would be a dream to be going on tour with my own music and pursuing that as well.
Okay.
So.
Would you think about like doing an album as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I think release my first single. I'm gonna release a few more, and then hopefully a bigger set, whether that's an EP or an album.
You're on Spotify and Apple Music, right?
Yes.
Anything else?
So be sure to go check her out on Spotify and Apple Music.
Okay. And then anything else outside of, like, where can they find your shows as well?
So that we're working on things, nothing linkable yet.
Okay. All right.
But
I mean, is there any place that they can watch it live? Like.
Yeah. So my mom does the show Sarafina Belafonte's Boudoir, the dinner theater with everything, and I work with her on that and also perform. So we just had a performance also back in December when I debuted the song at Sony Hall, and it was such a wonderful show.
Sony Hall.
Yeah. And so there are more to come, both for Fashion Week, because it also involves fashion, but also hopefully a show series that would happen weekly.
Okay.
So when that happens, you're all going to be the first to know.
Hey, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's really dope. And you were saying again that with the music, like, is there a particular, like, artist that you would want to, like, collaborate with? I assume you would want to do something, right? Like, Tell the people now.
Okay.
What would you want? Who is that dream?
Dream collab.
Dream
Okay,
collab.
dream collab. Oh my god, that is such a hard question. So, on a songwriting level, there's an artist, Joshua Bassett, who I just love his storytelling through music. Like, it's not just a catchy hook, it's an actual kind of story, always with a beginning, middle, and end, and I love listening to that. So that would be incredible. Producer-wise, I would love to collaborate with Mark Ronson. He just is incredible, has worked with so many different artists, and he just has such a vast understanding of the field and is so, like, just defies genre.
Like, you'd love to pick his brain and just see, like, how you can...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, he's so talented. He worked a lot with Amy Winehouse.
Okay.
And, my favorite song is called She's Got Me by Mark Ronson and some other, I forgot his name. But check that out. That's a plug for them. Not sponsored.
Alright, cool. That's amazing. And then lastly, like, where can people just find you in general? Like, any social media, any contacts that people want to reach out to you, or anything like that?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Sarafina Belafonte. So is my TikTok. So my Facebook, sure. I don't use that. My name, Spotify, Apple Music, also Sarafina Belafonte. Find me on LinkedIn too if you want to connect.
Networking.
Yeah.
One last question. In regards to, Columbia, for those of you guys watching, we have Bacchanal every year, which is a great concert of like many different artists that come onto our campus. And we also have student spotlight. Is it one of your dreams to eventually maybe you be one of the guests on that lineup?
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking if I maybe do Battle of the Bands to be a student opener next year and see.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, fingers crossed. But I would also love, it would be amazing to be big enough to then come back and perform at Bacchanal.
Right. That's a long.
Yeah, that would be absolutely incredible. I love Bacchanal.
Yes.
A fun day.
If you know, you know. Very fun.
I got to participate.
Yeah.
This year.
What were your thoughts?
It was definitely an experience. No, personally, it was pretty cool. I had never been to something like that. In the 4 years that I was in college, I didn't experience anything like that. So it was definitely a cool time. Definitely a fun time. Definitely a cool experience. Can't complain. Definitely would love to try it again.
Yeah.
So
come back
if we want to run it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I definitely remember everything.
I genuinely do remember.
That's good.
Others, I don't know.
He doesn't remember like half the stuff.
Did you see the show, the performance?
I got to see the show. What was that girl? Lonnie?
No, Raven.
Lonnie,
Lana Del Rey.
Whatever that girl be doing the dance, I forgot the name. To be honest, I was there. I heard it was too bad, but I was.
Takashi.
Takashi.
Tanashi.
To be honest, they're all the same time.
Oh my God.
But it was a good time. I was there, enjoying it.
I cannot believe you just said that.
Potato, bro.
I don't think it works like that.
That is so funny. I thought she was wonderful.
No, she was great.
I was like not fully with it, but I was with it.
I was into it, but let's be honest, she only has really one. You could say two. That's a really popular song, and then she obviously closed it with that, and then.
Okay. I was not super familiar with her music, but I thought it was really great. I loved her performance.
I would say even the choreography was great too.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember the choreography, bro?
Yes.
No, you don't.
Perform it.
Facts. Because where we were standing, you could not see anything. Let's be very real.
Okay, because
it was raining.
We were on the boat. Okay.
And it was raining.
We were on the boat.
The girls are fighting. They're fighting.
We don't know where we got that.
Bro, you don't even remember who was on the stage, bro. I'm telling you, bro.
You just confused Tanashi with Takashi.
Bro, it's the same thing. I didn't confuse it. I knew what I was saying. It's all the same. It's all the same to me. So, Takashi, Takushi, Takami. It's like apples to oranges, you know what I'm saying? It's still a fruit. Alright, whatever. I'm just ranting at this point. But anyways.
I think that's all the time that we have left. But guys, if thank you guys so much for joining. As you see, we always have a great time when we're in the studio space, especially with my co-host Raphael and our special guest Sarafina.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
and
so it was really
to our viewers, thank you for joining us as always. Remember to stay tuned for more episodes like this, where who knows, maybe you might be on next. So stay tuned, and this is your host Jesse signing off.
Ralph, as always, and again.
Bye.
We'll see y'all.
Deuces.